You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
All right, and good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. I am glad to be with you here this morning, and I'm glad that you are with us. It's going to be a great show today. There's lots of news to cover, sports, weather. There's the Renee Sweeney case, or the Stephen Wright case, however you want to word it. It's continuing. There's more evidence being presented there. There's even some comments I've been reading that some people think that they got the wrong guy too. It's interesting stuff, but there's that going on. The person was sentenced in the fire causing 3 deaths just recently in Sudbury. Well, it happened last year, but they were just sentenced to, I believe it was 16 years. We'll look into that a little bit more. Coverage of Frank Brumeler, who was a dementia patient at York Extendicare, who suffered 3 third-degree burns recently because of the shortage of care there. And sadly, there's, his wife is going to have to try to take some action there and hold the facility responsible, just because. So anyways, there's that. We got a couple of videos today to watch, some deep dives into some of the national things we have going on, Chinese interference in our elections, possibly, so there's that. Then there's also the recovery / just have safe injection sites argument type of thing. So Alberta apparently has started a movement where they're looking at the full recovery of people that are suffering from addictions, homelessness, addiction, things like that. Instead of just safe injection, they're looking at the full recovery solution like we've been talking about on the show. I got a really great video talking about that. So yeah, there's lots to talk about today. Let's get started. Thanks for being with us. Good morning, Monique. Thanks for being with us. Good morning. Hope you're having a great day. Also, Judy, good morning. Hope you're having a great day as well. Apparently it's going to be sunny in Sudbury. So how about we just get right into the weather, and we'll be back right after this. Sudbury weather brought to you by sudburyweather.ca. For all things Sudbury weather, just visit sudburyweather.ca. It's currently -8, but it feels like -13 out there. We can expect mainly sunny, as we said earlier today. Wind, a low 15 kilometers, high of +1 today. Wind chill will be -12 this morning. A few clouds tonight. Wind becoming 20 kilometers late this evening, low of -10. Wind chill -5 this evening, -17 overnight, so it'll still be cool overnight. Tuesday, sunny. Wind will be gusting from 40 to 70 kilometers an hour in the afternoon, so a little windy. The wind chill will be -18 in the morning. And long range, or at least next 7 days or so. Tomorrow it'll be high of 0, sunny. Wednesday, chance of flurries, 30%, -4 is your high. Thursday, cloudy, -2. Friday, mix of sun and cloud, high of -4. Saturday, 60% chance of flurries. Sunday, 60% chance of flurries. -4, -2 for the weekend. Hopefully things clear up by then. I was just hoping we're done with the snow myself, but you never know. It's March. Anything can happen. As you know, next week we're putting the time ahead as well. Spring forward, fall back. So we're going to lose an hour, but the days are getting longer. Look at your satellite view of northern Ontario. Cloudy pretty much over the Great Lakes, the North Shore, Manitoulin, Sault Ste. Marie, but Sudbury should expect to be mainly sunny today, as you can see there. So that is your Sudbury weather, brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. We'll be back with a little bit of sports after this. Sudbury Sports, brought to you by SudburySports.com. Randy Pascal is that Sudbury Sports guy, and his website is SudburySports.com. Make sure to check in there for all things Sudbury Sports. And good morning, David. Stay safe. Should be a little easier today as things are a little bit drier, and it should be sunny, and the temperature should be moderate, so it should be easier to accomplish that. Sudbury 5 lost on Thursday night. 105-89 against the London Lightning, kiboshing the Sudbury 5's 5-game winning streak. So the London Lightning seem to be the team that Sudbury 5 just has to beat. They cannot seem to beat them. 105-89. Also, the Sudbury Wolves lost against the North Bay Battalion, number 1 in the division, on Thursday. And then the following days, sorry, I'm just scrolling here. On Friday, they beat the Oshawa Generals at home here 5-1. And then the following day, on Saturday, great game, close game, nail-biter game. Had to go to overtime. It was an interesting game against the Niagara Ice Dogs. The Niagara Ice Dogs, it was 4-3 for the Sudbury Wolves. It looked like they just had to ride out the game, kind of thing. They tried, the Niagara Ice Dogs pulled their goalie for the extra attacker. We missed the open net. It was called icing. Came back, and the Niagara Ice Dogs hit the crossbar, and the referee deemed it a goal, even though it wasn't. So they went to video review. It was called back, but that then put the face-off in the Wolves' zone, which then we had our guy called out of the face-off circle, the guy who is used to taking face-offs, which would be someone you want there, and they put another guy in. And Niagara scored right off the face-off with 3 seconds left in the game to tie it up. Luckily, we then went into overtime and got the overtime winner, because that would have been a devastating one to lose, especially with Niagara being so low in the standings, and these are games you have to win. But anyways, we eventually pulled it off. We're looking pretty good for a playoff spot at the moment if we can continue to just hang in there. Nate Krawchuk, 17-year-old goaltender, basically got the OHL Rookie of the Month last month. And he's been a real reason why the Sudbury Wolves are doing as good as they are. And he's young, means they can keep him for a few years and build around him. And if they can keep the core of their team and add to it, it looks like if they don't go too far in the playoffs this year, the following years are looking very promising. That's your Sudbury Sports, brought to you by SudburySports.com. Randy Pascal's website, SudburySports.com. So we'll be back right after this with headlines and break down all the news stories of the weekend right after this. All right. So here we are. We're back in the saddle. Just want to make sure I'm getting this right here. And I am. There we go. Got it. So, if you're not aware, Billy, who's on the show here Tuesdays and Thursdays most of the time, y'all know Billy. He'll be in tomorrow to talk about this. I don't want to spend too much time on it. However, his father has gone through some traumatic experiences just in the last little while, and at York Extendicare. So I told Billy's stepmom, his dad's wife, that I would release a press release on behalf of them because I know how to do that kind of thing. So I released a press release to all the local media, and CTV picked it up, CBC picked it up, the Sudbury Star also did. The only one that didn't pick it up was Sudbury.com for some reason. And so as you see, we shared the 3 stories on our Facebook page. And it's very sad. There's a Sudbury Star article. If you are to read them and you look at the pictures, there are some graphic pictures in there. What happened was Billy's dad, who suffers from dementia, had his arm somehow over the bed, and there was a heater there, and his arm was resting on the heater for no one knows how long. And because of his dementia, he was in dire pain, but did not know how to did not take his arm off of the heater. And so it just stayed there. And no one knows how long. And so he suffered 3rd-degree burns on his arm. The pictures are there. I don't necessarily need to show them here on the show. But if you wanted to go on the Facebook page, you just open the articles from CTV, which is the news story. They did the video news story, Sudbury Star, and CBC, who are interviewing Billy's stepmom this morning, probably right now as we're talking on CBC. Not that I want you to leave this show and go listen to it. You can catch it on cbc.ca/Sudbury after, because they usually put the interview of the day with Marcus there archived after. So you can listen to that interview with Billy's stepmom, with Diane's wife, with Frank's wife, Diane, on CBC with Marcus this morning. And so it's getting quite a bit of coverage, and we're glad for that. It's a sad situation, and there's more to the story, which we'll be talking to Billy about that tomorrow, and we'll unpack that. Here's a picture of Diane and Frank here some time ago, and this is a picture of Frank currently at York Extendicare after the accident, just showing a picture of his arm there. Very sad, very painful. He was in such pain that he was biting his lip so hard that he caused all kinds of injuries to his lip as well. 3rd-degree burns, injuries to his lip. There were some other burns as well in other parts of his body. Just mysteriously, no one knows how it happened. But anyways, pretty crazy stuff. So we really appreciate there's been a lot of love kind of thrown Billy's way after sharing the story. So we'll be talking to Billy about that. And it's really close to home and probably hard to talk about in such a public way as to talk about it on the show, but I'm sure we'll get through it. Comment here on the story from Andy says His wife spent 4 years in Pioneer Manor before her passing. He wouldn't wish that upon anybody in the world. These places are just prisons run by a group of bureaucrats for benefit of themselves. And so again, it's if you see all the comments from the 3 different stories that have been shared, this is a hot topic these days with many of us have loved ones in long-term care facilities. And before the pandemic, it was really hard, and they were understaffed before the pandemic. But even now, afterwards, after certain mandates, certain people who chose not to follow the mandates, they were let go. And so that just created, it's probably as much as 40% of their workforce gone overnight. And now they're having even a harder time staffing. So it's a bad problem that just got really bad, a lot worse, really quick. So yes, good morning, Jerome. I hope you are doing well this morning. Thanks for being with us. Lots to talk about this morning as usual on the weekend. We'll talk more about the long-term care issue tomorrow with Billy and the very close to home incident with his father and what he's just experienced tomorrow morning. Here's the next headline. Missing Sudbury man found deceased. William Cottrell, he was 56, went missing Friday morning. Greater Sudbury Police tweeted, and our sincerest condolences go out to his family. The police don't suspect any foul play at this time, but the coroner is looking into it. They'll have more information later on that. This is kind of a big enough story, our downtown, right? Since the pandemic started, a lot of people have been working from home. And that just means that there's a lot more vacancy in office buildings because a lot of people are working from home. And that's been a huge trend, and it's continuing. A lot of people are trying to bring their workforce back, but it's only for a couple days, a week. They're not saying come back full time. Governments are a good example of that, whether it's municipal, provincial, federal. Diane's just checking in here. Good morning. Good Monday morning. Yes, it is Monday. Bon matin. My mom passed away in Pioneer Manor and was always short of staff. Yes, that's true. And I'm just wondering if that was recently or if that was before the pandemic or during. Because again, as far as I know, it was short of staff even before the pandemic. It was a problem then, and it's now getting even worse because there's less staff available, and it's a hard job. It's a thankless job for the most. And Monique saying sorry for your loss to Diane. This is continuing with the downtown issue. There's a bunch of properties for sale. According to the Sudbury.com article, several buildings in downtown Sudbury Skyline have been posted for sale in recent weeks, of which some have been marketed as candidates for potential residential conversions. A wealth of downtown Sudbury office buildings listed for sale in recent weeks. Local real estate companies have been marketing them as candidates for residential conversions. It's a broader trend fueled by a shift in need as more people work from home in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic. Royal LePage, broker Paul Kizniarchik. I think I got that right, told Sudbury.com. COVID-19 certainly has something to do with that right now. He said there's just less demand for offices. And some notable buildings are the Scotia Tower. We talked about that on Thursday. We did not have a show on Friday, by the way, everyone. I announced it on Thursday. I didn't post it, though. So if you missed the show on Thursday, I apologize for not posting that message. But anyways, we didn't have a show on Friday, but we did talk about it on Thursday. Scotia Tower listed for, I think, 6 point something million. It was listed for almost 10 million, but the price was brought down considerably, almost 30%. So it's for sale. It's at 80% vacant currently. And the also 93 seaters for sale. It's a 29,000 square foot building. 2 Lisgar Street, or the old National Bank building. I believe that's on the corner of Elm and Lisgar. It's for sale. 10,000, almost 600 square feet. So also 30 St. Anne Road is a 9-story building, 54,000 square feet of rentable area, which is 70% vacant. It's also for sale. There's a lot of buildings downtown that are currently for sale. And it was surprising to know that 4 other properties similarly were sold this year. 60 Elm Street, 83 Cedar, 96 Larch, and 120 Larch were all sold within the last year. So things are going on downtown with hey, if you're in the real estate business and you want to convert some of these office buildings into residential, there's also incentives from the city. Interest-free loans up to $25,000 for leaseholders to make eligible permanent improvements to make the changes needed to turn them into residential buildings instead of commercial. Good morning, Claire. Hope you're having a good morning. Thanks for being with us. So that's that. If for more information, you can visit the Sudbury.com's article on that, written by our good friend Tyler Clark, reporter for Sudbury.com. So Emerald says turning the empty buildings into affordable housing is what direly needed here in Sudbury. The businesses have all moved to the south end. New Sudbury areas, can't blame them. No parking in the downtown core to accommodate shoppers. Being the transit terminal is central, people who don't drive, like me, easy access is a blessing to get to shopping and amenities. Another medical clinic downtown is also needed as they are overloaded. There's also a couple more comments here. Just don't get Oldenburg involved. I'm not sure who that is, but some of you may know. Andrew says Scotia Tower should be turned into affordable housing, which definitely is an option. There's no doubt about that. The Dancing with the Stars, Easter Steel's Stars, raises $125,000 in Sudbury. And Alessandro Constantini and pro dancer Janie Pinard were declared the top dancers. So that's awesome. This Easter Seals month, apparently. And if you can find it in your heart to contribute to Easter Seals in their fundraising efforts, it's a great organization, and they've helped me quite a bit when we had our terminally ill daughter. We were caring for her in our home. They were a great resource for us, and Easter Seals I can't say enough good about them. They provided us with what we needed in order to provide the care for our daughter. And without that, would have been a lot harder. So Easter Seals, helping a lot of families that are struggling with children with disabilities. And they are we talk about vulnerable people on this show quite a bit, homelessness, addictions, people that are that are just in vulnerable places in their lives, and who more in a vulnerable position than someone with severe disabilities. A little bit getting into the national news. Maybe we'll come back to that. I don't know. Sticking with local man helped to start deadly Sudbury townhouse fire, sent to prison For 16 years, that's from CBC, a man who used Gatorade bottles to full of gasoline to set Sudbury townhouse on fire, killing 3 people inside, has been sentenced to 16 years in prison. Some may say that's not enough. Basically murder, if you look at it that way, 16 years, I don't know. A lot of people get a lot more for a lot less. The forensic pathologist was part of the ongoing Renee Sweeney court case here in Sudbury. Stab wounds to Sudbury murder victim's neck were fatal blows, pathologist testifies. That's the headline. The forensic pathologist who conducted the autopsy on Sudbury murder victim Renee Sweeney testified Thursday that a series of 4 wounds to her neck proved to be fatal blows. The trial, I don't think, went ahead on Friday, but it continues today with more testimony, and we'll have more on that tomorrow as news comes out today. Now, Vin is saying it's disturbing that CTV would share grisly details of a victim that was murdered years ago with no compassion for those that have dealt with the emotions, but will withhold and condemn those that request vax status of a deceased of a safe and effective drug. That's interesting. So that's a whole other story altogether, but and we'll have to unpack that at some other time when any news-related stories come out concerning that. I think he's referring to people that have passed young, like there's been a lot of young people passing, and there's a lot of people believing that it could be due to vaccine injury, but if you asked were they vaccinated, just to see that, people get very upset and they say, how dare you ask that? It's upsetting to people, but there are a lot of people out there who just want to know, including myself, because it is interesting. You want to kind of keep your finger on the pulse of that one just to see, but it's almost like a taboo to ask these days. So you're not allowed to ask if a deceased person has been vaccinated, because you don't really know if it was from COVID or it was from the vaccine if they've been vaccinated. If they weren't vaccinated, you could at least tell it wasn't from the vaccine because they weren't vaccinated. So that totally is out of the question. And these are questions we do need to be asking in our society after we just had more than 80% of our population vaccinated. You kind of need to look at that just to see, looking back, if it was indeed as effective and safe as was claimed on such a quickly rolled out drug of that nature, right? Anyways, that's all I'm going to share with on that subject at the moment. Greater Sudbury drinking water salty in annual report. I never even knew there was salt in our water before reading this story. Really? Salt in our water? Greater Sudbury drinking water still salty in annual report. High sodium levels in many city of Greater Sudbury water systems is a long-time ongoing concern, though all substances measured within mandated guidelines in the city's 2022 drinking water, according to the quality report. Did you know that? There's salt in our water? People that are on certain diets where you have to keep your sodium low, you would hope that there wouldn't be much sodium, but I do believe now, reading some bottled water labels, that sodium is on the label. So I guess there are certain parts of salt per million, whatever, in the water, parts per million. Interesting. Anyways, you can read more about that. We shared it on our Sudbury News Facebook page. The original story is from Sudbury.com. I guess now we can head into more national topics, I guess you can say, because there's quite a bit of them, but also relate to Sudbury here, because we face a lot of the same issues. Let's see here. Randy. Oh, yes. And there's also in our water, which I did know about. I wasn't sure about salt content, but I was aware of the fluoride content we do have in our water. And that's a huge, huge subject as well. I remember a friend of mine who ran for mayor, and his whole platform was, let's get rid of the fluoride in our water, because it ain't good stuff to drink. And there hasn't even been one study that showed it's good for your teeth either. Can you imagine that? It's in all of our toothpaste. It's in our water. Not one study proving that it's good for our teeth. Weird. If you take a dive down the rabbit hole in that subject, that's all the time I'm going to spend on that one too. But just if you want to look into it, it's probably not good to drink. If you look at the origins of where it comes from and what it is. Yeah. It used to have, and I don't know if it still has, on toothpaste. Do not swallow. If swallowed, contact a physician or go seek medical help or something like that. It used to say on toothpaste. I remember someone showing me that. I was like, what? You put that stuff in your mouth. What kid doesn't like the taste of toothpaste? And even a lot of toothpaste is like bubblegum flavor and stuff for kids. What kid wouldn't just think, oh, I'm just going to swallow that, you know? Claire said, we seem to have Javex in our water in Sturgeon Falls. Well, I think we have it in Sudbury as well. You know, since sometimes it's stronger than others, you know, when you're running your water and you get that smell of bleach. I know you must have encountered this with city water in Sudbury. I know I have. It just smells like a strong bleach smell. And I guess they put that in there to kill bacteria. And I'm sure there's somebody listening who knows how city water, all the things they put into it and the reasons why or what they were told anyways, right? So I believe the Javex or the bleach is put in there to kill off whatever bacteria. And I had a friend who actually works for the city in the water department too. Played hockey with them for many years. And I remember us having conversations with that. But anyways, it's all apparently supposed to be okay to drink a certain amount of bleach in your water. So many parts per million, again, right? I'll pass on that myself. I think not even a little bit of bleach is probably good to drink myself. I have a lot of friends who disagree, though. They love the city water. They think there's nothing different about it than water that doesn't contain all of those additives. Don't recall it in Sudbury when I lived there, and this is Claire talking many years ago. I definitely know that I've had that smell of bleach from the water in Sudbury. It's been about 2 years since I've had city water. I'm on well water currently, which I really love because it's more natural and it's been tested as some of the cleanest water in Sudbury. So grateful for that. Water is, we're 90% water. It's really important to have good water and a lot of good water. Trustees publicly question the handling of transgender teacher with oversized breasts. You have to have seen this. This is Sudbury Star talking about the thing that's been going on down south, I believe in Oakville. Right now, the community sees, this is the trustees of the school board talking. Right now, the community sees us as not being up to the job, just dragging our feet. Are we doing anything to address this? The trustees ask. Okay, so trustees in Ontario School Board at the center of the furious controversy over classroom displays of enormous, seemingly prosthetic breasts by what the local school says is a transgender teacher showed their first public sign of discontent over the handling of the situation. Yeah, this has been going on for over a year, and they're just showing their sign of discontent now. through roadside protests, petitions, outbursts from the public, and a string of vitriolic death threats and bomb scares, the Halton District School Board trustees and board officials had remained steadfast that the issue could not be discussed. The teacher is supported and that no action should be taken, even if it was warranted. There was a different tone Wednesday night at the board's meeting. In January, the board told staff to draft a policy outlining dress and decorum by the staff in Halton schools. On Wednesday, the draft policy was presented, but it didn't offer any new rules or regulations. Some parents expressed frustration the issue that has disrupted Oakville High School, west of Toronto, since the start of the school years seems no closer to resolution. Questions from several trustees to Curtis Ennis, Director of Education, and Sari Taha, Superintendent of Education, revealed they share the frustration. Another trustee questioned the effectiveness of the draft policy and community support for it, or the survey the board put in place to receive feedback. We have overwhelming evidence that the community or the stakeholders are not supporting the survey or the professional policy draft as it's circulated. So right now, the community sees us as not being up to the job, just dragging our feet. Are we doing anything to address this? So that will be an ongoing thing. It looks like finally they are saying to themselves, they got to do something because of the public outcry on this issue. It's been getting a lot of coverage in the States too. Like Canada, a lot of times isn't covered too much in the States, but lately there's been a lot of Canadian news covered in the States starting back in February. The Freedom Convoy, that pretty much got world attention and a lot in the States. This story, the story which we might have on Wednesday about the pastor in Alberta protesting a drag story time event. He was accosted, he was manhandled, and then he was arrested for public disturbance, even though he was the one who was manhandled. That had gotten into the media in the States as well. So this particular story has gotten a lot of traction in the States. Not as much in Canada, because I guess we're just not able to kind of have a position because we're in the anything goes progressive society that if you say anything against anything, you'll be canceled. I think that's just my take on it. So Jerome, back to the water issue. Never drink tap water without treating it to remove chlorine and fluoride. Yeah, there's also chlorine in our water as well. Okay, back to this story. Not surprised. Oh, salt is present in our water. It's a natural sanitizer, having chlorine molecules in it too. Also, the chlorine comes from salt as well. Interesting. Jerome says there is no exact science to the amount of chlorine added to municipal water. Off the cuff judgment call. That's interesting. I guess every day they just decide, maybe we'll put this much chlorine in. And maybe it's chlorine that gives me the idea of it was a bleachy smell all along. And it was just chlorine I was smelling rather than bleach. This was another tactic from government to divide people. Never would have happened. I don't know if you're talking about the prosthetics story, I would think. And then back to the toxins are cumulative in the human condition. How can there be an acceptable part per million? Yes, that's true. That's why I say I would not. I have one of those, Berkey water filters, Burke. It's a gravity water filter. It's like a cylinder, stainless steel. Put your water through that, takes the fluoride out, takes the chlorine out. and whatever. And I would never drink water without putting something through that first. City water. Now with the well water, we're fine. We don't need to use that anymore. And yes, Claire was talking about the prosthetic issue. So that is, just that's going to be an ongoing thing. We'll talk about that as more comes up with that. It's definitely ongoing. Now, this was an interesting story I found from a journalist from BC. I think we shared one of his stories on the show before. Sorry about that little glitch. But Aaron Gunn is his name, and he was at the conference in in Alberta, talking about their methods of dealing with the opioid crisis, homelessness as it's combined. And instead of just having safe injection sites like we are in Northern Ontario, Sudbury, Timmins, I know for sure, they are going the whole treatment recovery road. So that way someone, instead of just having a safe place to inject, would have a safe place to inject, and then people that would care for them and bring them to the next phase to be able to recover. Miles, you got one thing not true about our water since the Walkerton incident. All municipalities are monitored by the Ministry for Specific Compliance, for sure. Definitely. As you know, though, in Espanola last week, 2 weeks ago, they had a glitch, and they had to put out a warning that something went wrong, and there was a bacteria in there that could have caused diarrhea and sickness and things like that. So things can still happen, but yeah, no, it's monitored for sure. I guess they have to put a certain amount of things in the water. But anyways, back to the conference that went on in Alberta. I'll just let Aaron take it from here, and we'll be back right after this.
Hey, so we're here at the Alberta Recovery Conference in Calgary, a conference attended by over 1,000 people, a lot of optimism in the room, a lot of positive thinking, focused on what they're calling the new Alberta model, focused on recovery and treatment, and standing in very stark contrast to what's going on in my home province of British Columbia, where they just like handing out hard drugs like candy on Halloween. So we're going to go try to chat with some of these people, see what they have to say, and find out what the Alberta model is all about. What do you think about, obviously what Alberta's doing is quite a bit different than British Columbia. Here they talk a lot about recovery first treatment, or BC the focus is more on, you see decriminalization, destigmatization, and also basically putting opioids in vending machines and things like that.
I think it's a terrible idea. From my perspective and from everybody that I work with, I know that when I was homeless and addicted to drugs, right, the best ideas that I could come up with at that time got me homeless and addicted to drugs. I needed direction, I needed guidance, and I didn't know how to get out. And so I've just accepted that. So if you would have asked me what I needed back then to improve my situation, I would have told you $20.
It's funny, earlier we saw some protesters outside, and I'm from British Columbia, so you see BC going in almost the exact opposite direction.
Well, some of the people that I work with and the clients that we have at the center, they're very vocal on those programs. You will never get a more honest person than somebody that's entering into early recovery, and a lot of what they're saying is those programs would have kept me in addiction. If it's unmonitored and I can do whatever I want with those pills, I would have sold them for what I wanted, or I would have, done whatever. I would have used more, or still using those dangerous street drugs. So I do believe that there is a way to do it, and it definitely should be medically monitored for sure.
And how important do you find the treatment and the rehabilitation is in your cultural context versus some people that think it should be more just handing out the free drugs or the safe supply?
Oh no, that's basically using our people as guinea pigs, or we don't want that. Why would you give somebody something to make them sick? We're supposed to be helping people. We're supposed to be helping people in recovery.
What do you say to people that say, this isn't an addiction crisis, it's just a poison drug crisis, and all we need is a safe supply, aka government manufactured and distributed supply of drugs, and that'll solve all the problems?
I would say that I got addicted to a safe supply of oxycodone after foot surgery. It's called a prescription. Okay? People have short memories. In the 1990s and the early 2000s, the United States had something called pain clinics where you could walk in and you could get a month's supply of oxycodone prescribed to you along with fentanyl suckers and all this stuff. And it totally perpetuated a huge drug crisis where over 20 million people in the United States got addicted to opioids. The number one thing that's most important to you and to anyone that's struggling with addiction is their drugs. Everything else is second after that. And I'm watching Alberta literally put 10,000 beds in this province alone, and just that alone makes me think of what we could do in California and how we could help our people that are struggling with addiction.
Now in Alberta, the first jurisdiction, I think, anywhere in North America, any Albertan, any time of day, anywhere you live, free of charge with no wait list, can receive treatment on demand, right? And that is unbelievable. Thank you very much.
How'd the conference go?
I think it went fantastic. I mean, we had 1,300 people from across North America. 50% of them were Indigenous, which is amazing participation.
And it seemed like there was a lot of positivity and optimism in the room. Is that the sense that you got as well, that there's a lot of people that are really hyped up about what's happening in Alberta?
Yeah, it was incredibly optimistic. The amount of learning that was going on here was unbelievable. The amount of connection between people and hugging, and it really is the spirit of recovery.
And how about, there's been a lot of talk and a lot of excitement, I think, around what's being called and what you called the Alberta model. Can you talk a little bit about what that is and why people are so passionate and excited about what it means?
I think the Alberta model represents a shift in philosophy, one that moves away from a theory or a prevailing conversation where people in addiction just need to be kept safe where they are while they're using drugs, and one that shifts to a much more comprehensive system of care, a holistic care continuum that is really inspirational. That's what the Alberta model is really about.
All right, welcome back. So, yeah, that's pretty telling. I almost was tearing up there just listening to them talking about the model that they're, and the reasoning for everything, that their philosophy behind what they're doing is exactly the same, I think, as myself and any of the people that have been on this show. And I think probably 99.99% of people here in Ontario would feel of how we'd want to help somebody in our own family who is struggling ourselves, how we would want to be treated if we were going through this, or how someone we really cared about, whether it's a close friend, a family member. That's what that sounded like to me. It sounded like caring, and then utilizing our resources to care for people fully towards recovery. And that's what we've been talking about since the beginning of this whole situation we're faced with in Sudbury. Seems like we kind of bought into something else, another philosophy, and it's not the same. And I would love to find out how we could bring this Alberta model to Sudbury and use it as a model, because we've already started the other. We can compare it. We can compare how we've done with what we've been doing to this Alberta model. And I can guarantee you I already know the results of that. And that's because a society that cares about its people, that's the way you show it. You don't give an addict more drugs and then you just leave it. And they explained all the reasons very well. All these people, a lot of them were coming from the streets and from addiction. And they said, so you got to listen to them. They recovered. So that's from the horse's mouth. You can't really, how could somebody who hasn't been through it say they know more than someone who's been through it and now are giving of their time and talents and resources to help others? I really appreciate Aaron Gunn for his reporting. If you're able to go to his Facebook page, I would encourage you. He's got really great stories. He's an independent journalist. Claire says Health Canada is now allowed the selling of cocaine. And Trudeau says it will help people to have cleaner drugs. Huh. Yeah, we live in an interesting time, for sure. Monique says the government is going crazy, which I think that if that is true, then that definitely qualifies for that. Carrie says, I agree. You need the full circle of help, not just safe injection sites. 100% agree with that. Yes. Need to bring someone from where they are back to being a complete human being again. Because when you're addicted, it takes away so much of your soul and yourself. And you have so much potential. And everyone does. And I think if governments, which they are incapable of caring, because you can't have a cumulative group. That's why companies, when they say on the sides of their transport, we care. They don't. They're a company made up of individuals. They can't care. A corporation can't care for you. They don't care. The individuals within the corporation, one by one, could care, and they all have different levels of caring. A government cannot care. It's incapable of caring. However, they can have the optics of caring, at least, or people within the government can make, if they do care, the individuals within the government can care enough to influence their other people who may have different levels of caring, to influence policy that affects people on the ground level, to which I think a lot of times we become detached if we're in positions of power. We're in our office. We are in meetings all the time. We're talking about the problems that we're trying to solve, but we never really see them firsthand for ourselves. We don't go through them. Very little, anyways. People actually know the plights of the people they represent. You know, it's kind of a glass bubble, or they're in a bubble kind of thing. Miles says, great model in Alberta for sure. However, the Canadian media already has stigmatized Alberta as a rogue province, not agreeing with the treatment. Really? It's politically unfortunate. It's political, unfortunately. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I guess, yeah. I'd love to bring Alberta here, a little bit of Alberta here. If not, maybe I need to go to Alberta. But it'd be great to bring some of that common sense thinking, caring. I mean, who wouldn't? If they heard that story, who could say, no, that's not the way to go. I think we just need to keep with what we got. Like, who in their right mind, if you really looked at the situation, who in their right mind would say, no, this is the right way we're going right now. It doesn't need to be even hampered with, touched. It's working really well. We know it's not working. We know it's not working. The numbers are there. It's not helping anything. The numbers are getting worse. More and more people are getting addicted to opioids. More and more people are homeless. More and more people are losing their situation in our society. In Canada, for crying out loud. You'd expect this in other countries. And it can be helped with people in leadership who are making correct decisions, who are in positions to make these decisions. But again, it comes from grassroots. The people have to demand it. It would be great for Sudbury for sure. That's Claire. Definitely. Any other community for that matter. But why not do a little test in Sudbury? Let's be really progressive with caring for once. We always want to be progressive in terms of climate change and green energy and progressive with identities, and we want to be all inclusive and all this stuff, but it doesn't seem to me we're treating the most vulnerable in a way that's not very inclusive. To be inclusive would be to care about these people, rehabilitate them, and bring them back from where they lost their way. Anyways, that's my soapbox for today. And that's the show. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for commenting, everyone. Really appreciate it. We'll be back same time tomorrow. Billy will be on the show. We'll be talking about long-term health and his particular situation with his father tomorrow on the show. So make sure to be with us between 7:30 and 8:30 tomorrow. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. And have a safe and happy Monday. We'll be back tomorrow. Ciao, everyone.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.